The Pittsburgh Steelers win in Week 18 by a final score of 17-10 to improve to 10-7 for the 2023 regular season, putting them in position to potentially make the 2023-2024 NFL playoffs, given that they get some help here on Sunday afternoon or maybe even night. So let's break down this one here. Saturday Night Football, in the rain, in the cold. It was very evident from the start that neither team was going to be able to move the football through the air very effectively. And really, I think when you look at the box score and your box score hunting here, you're going to say, oh, the Steelers only scored 17 points and only beat the Ravens by 7 when the Ravens were playing their backups. But those people didn't watch the game, all right? Because even if Lamar Jackson and the Ravens starters were playing, it was going to be tough for anybody to move the football in those conditions. There was wind, there was rain, it was cold outside. It was probably the worst conditions that the Steelers have played in years. And guess what? The Steelers didn't play a perfect football game, right? There was a ton of fumbles, there was a bunch of drop passes, there's penalties, all these different things, but they did what they had to do to secure the victory. They had timely turnovers. TJ Watt solidified his Defensive Player of the Year resume with 2 more sacks. We'll talk about his injury status here in a second. But Mason Rudolph, 18 of 20 for 152 and a touchdown. Thought he played very efficiently today and had the biggest moment of the day with a huge touchdown pass to Diontae Johnson that went to the house. Najee Harris also had a really good game, over 100 yards rushing once again on 26 carries and a tud, and the Steelers defense took care of business today. Absolutely fantastic. And now after this win, so you might be asking yourselves, Jack, what needs to happen tomorrow in order for the Steelers to make the playoffs? Well, here's what needs to happen. So right now, if you're watching this, Houston, Indianapolis is probably going on right now. If that game ends in a tie, the Steelers will be heading to the playoffs tonight. However, that's unlikely, and if it doesn't happen, tomorrow comes down to 2 games, and the Steelers just need one of these things to happen, okay? Either the Tennessee Titans need to beat the Jacksonville Jaguars at Nissan Stadium tomorrow with Ryan Tannehill as their quarterback going up against most likely C.J. Beathard for the Jaguars. Pretty likely, in my opinion. I like the toughness that the Titans team brings to the table. And then if somehow the Jaguars are able to win with C.J. Beathard, then the season comes down to the Dolphins versus Bills game on Sunday Night Football. And make sure you click that subscribe button, because if it comes down to that Sunday Night Football game, Coop and I are going to be going live right here on the Steelers Talk YouTube channel. And, you know, when I look at this game, I think that the first thing that comes to mind is W. Sweep. Steelers beat the Baltimore Ravens for the second time this season. You know what? I don't want to hear any crying and any excuses from Ravens fans for not playing their starters in this game. Guess what? The Steelers beat you guys in your varsity squad in Week 5 and made your precious MVP look like freaking Kenny Pickett out there, all right? So type W down there in the chat or in the comments if you're happy about the Steelers win. Spam those W's. Show those Ravens fans who's boss and who really is the best team in the AFC North. All right, so I have my game balls today, and I've got 5 of them per usual. And I really do think this week, the first one's got to go to the guy that really put the offense on his shoulders. This guy is somebody that we have criticized here in the past. He's somebody that we've said is probably going to get replaced in the offseason, a bunch of different things. But today and over the last several weeks has really proven his worth to this football team. And that's Najee Harris, the running back. Last week, over 120 yards in Seattle. Today, in a game where really it was going to come down to which team ran the football better, Najee Harris was the best player on the field, period, in my opinion. Najee Harris was able to fight for extra yards. He does what he does well. It wasn't necessarily a perfect game for Najee. He made some poor decisions in terms of cutting it outside instead of just running forward, but overall, Najee was the main engine once again for this offense, and I think he's working his way towards the Steelers picking up his 5th-year option in 2024. Number 2, game ball goes to the head coach, Mike Tomlin. And listen, everybody after those 3 losses to the Cardinals, Patriots, and Colts, going to 7-7, the playoff odds go down to less than 5%, and everybody was talking about, let's fire Mike Tomlin. It's time to move on from Mike Tomlin. And listen, over these last 3 weeks, they make that change to Mason Rudolph, and, with just decent quarterback play, right, this team is a bona fide playoff team. They won 3 straight. They got to 10-7, and you know what? Mike Tomlin got his 10th double-digit win season of his 17-year career here in Pittsburgh. And listen, most head coaches in their career never get to 10. all right, let alone in just 17 years. So Mike Tomlin, absolutely fantastic head coach. He has solved a lot of problems for this team throughout the season. This has been a resilient bunch, and he deserves a lot of credit for getting this team and this offense specifically to 10-7. All right, so coming up here, I got more Steelers post-game coverage coming your way. But first, I want to have a word from our sponsor here at Factor Meals. Get started on your New Year's resolutions with today's sponsor, Factor. Factor's ready-to-eat meal delivery service takes the stress out of meal planning and sets you up for success in the new year. Skip the grocery stores, prep work, and cooking fatigue. Instead, get chef-crafted, dietitian-approved meals delivered straight to your door. With over 35 meals to choose from per week, including options like keto, calorie smart, vegan and veggie, and more, plus over 55 weekly add-ons, you'll have a ton of nutritious and flavorful options to kickstart your New Year's resolutions this year. Stress less over meal times, and with Factor's no prep, no mess meals to free up time otherwise spent shopping, cooking, and cleaning up with all those dishes. We know how much we hate doing dishes, guys, and guess what? Factor meals just take 2 minutes in the microwave, boom, done. You have a healthy meal right in front of you, and you don't have to do any dishes at the end of it. Head on over to factormeals.com/SteelersChat50 and use code SteelersChat50. You get 50% off Factor Meals today. That's code SteelersChat50. You can find it in the bottom right of your screen right now at factormeals.com/SteelersChat50. You get 50% off Factor Meals today. Number 3 game ball today goes to Diontae Johnson. And listen, we talked about Mason Rudolph's awesome pass at the end or at the start of the fourth quarter, that big touchdown pass. Diontae Johnson ran a great route. And listen, that touchdown play pretty much sealed the deal for the Pittsburgh Steelers. In this one, it was the difference in this football game. And Diontae Johnson, it wasn't a perfect game for him. Mason Rudolph threw a deep ball to him earlier in the football game, falls to the grass because he's not really tracking the ball well. And then he also was on the field for a punt for the Steelers, and it led to a 12-man on the field penalty. So Diontae Johnson, not a perfect football game, but he showed resilience, took advantage of his opportunity, and took it to the crib. Now, number 4, I got Eric Rowe, the safety that the Steelers brought in to be a practice squad guy, an emergency starter. And lo and behold, that emergency came to fruition here over these last several weeks. And guess what? This guy's played nothing but great football. He's forcing turnovers. Today, he forced a massive forced fumble in the fourth quarter, which was even bigger, arguably, than the touchdown pass. I would say the 2 biggest plays in this game, that long touchdown pass from Mason Rudolph to Diontae Johnson on 3rd down and 4, frozen rope in the rain, and then you got the forced fumble from Eric Rowe in Baltimore territory to set the Steelers up to go up 2 scores and secure the victory. So Eric Rowe has played absolutely fantastically. This guy was sitting on his ass just weeks ago, and now he is a bona fide starter here at the Pittsburgh Steelers. Good for Eric. And then finally, of course, you got to give it to Mason Rudolph, man. This guy, it was definitely more of a run-centric game. And listen, the last 2 out of the last 3 weeks, it's been more on the run game than on the passing game. Right? It's been Najee Harris, Jaylen Warren carrying most of the load offensively, but Mason Rudolph is making the throws that he needs to make. All right, he had a really good completion percentage today. He threw a frozen rope in the rain and in the cold to Diontae Johnson on that slant route, that post route to the crib, and Mason Rudolph just makes those big plays that you need from your starting quarterback. If the Steelers make the playoffs, watch out, NFL, because Mason Rudolph and this Steelers offense is hot, and as long as they're not playing in these kinds of conditions, cold, wet, and windy, I think this Steelers team is capable of putting up 30 points every time they step out on the field. Now, let me know down there in the comments section, who was the MVP of the game today? If I have to give it to one person, I'm going to give it to Najee Harris for really taking on that large workload. Jaylen Warren was fumbling the football a little bit today, and Najee Harris not only protected the football, but he got over 100 yards rushing in a game where the Steelers desperately needed it. All right, so now let's talk a little bit about TJ Watt and his latest status here. This one comes from Ian Rappaport, who says, based on initial tests, Steelers' potential Defensive Player of the Year, TJ Watt, is believed to have suffered a grade 3 MCL sprain, sources said. He'll have further tests, but that's a multi-week injury, better than an ACL tear, but not good if Pittsburgh makes the playoffs. So, listen, he was able to walk off on his own power. He's going to get tests. Make sure you guys click that subscribe button because we're going to have you with the latest updates on TJ Watt, especially if the Steelers end up making the playoffs based on tomorrow's events. And listen, I know for a fact TJ Watt is a warrior, and he's going to do whatever it freaking takes to get on the field ASAP for the Pittsburgh Steelers next week and then in the weeks to follow. All right, so some final kind of takeaways here. I don't want to hear anybody saying, oh, we stink. We only beat the Ravens with their backups by 7 points. All right, that's completely negating the fact that this game was played in a cold, wet, and windy conditions that would have been tough for any offense, all right? So I don't want to hear any of those explanations or excuses or, that negative talk, because the Steelers, when the conditions have been better and have been conducive for football, if we're being frank, they put up over 30 points of offense and 400 yards. So I need to see something different before I start to not believe in this Steelers offense. I think they played good enough today. They made the big plays when they needed to make them. And that's kind of a trademark of a Mike Tomlin team where they're just never dead. You can't kill the Pittsburgh Steelers as long as Mike Tomlin is their head coach, and that is perhaps his best quality. So next week, hopefully the Steelers, we're going into another week here of Steelers football, playing in the playoffs. And all I'm going to say right now, Steelers fans, is the NFL better not let the Steelers win a game in the wild card round, because guess who the Steelers will likely play on divisional weekend if they win next week? That's right, the Baltimore Ravens. And guess what? We're coming for their MVP, and we're going for the 3-0 super sweep at the end of the season. Let's get it going. Let's get a win. Go Titans. Go Dolphins. Make sure you click that subscribe button and join us live tomorrow for our playoff, hopefully, celebration right here on Steelers Talk.